Is Disney Cruise Line still probably more expensive than most of its counterparts? Yes, but you also get what you pay for.
Speaking of money and finances, what are some of your favorite ways that maybe like low key? Like we may know that get a Disney credit card that can help, for example, or we know the BJ's and Target, those
Yep.
5%, 10%. So any money saving tips that are not well known.
There are marginal things, right? Not huge savings. Of course, once in a while, Disney does release a savings promotion. They've had one recently a couple of times where after the first two guests, if the next two guests are children, they might be 50% off or something like that. Now, to be fair, it's not a huge discount because the third and fourth guests in the stateroom are already at a lower price point, but it is something. If you're somebody who likes to drink wine or drink beer, for each adult that is traveling on the sailing, they can bring 2 bottles of wine or up to 6 bottles of beer, sort of standard size beer bottle or can. And that's one way if you wanna have a drink, but you don't wanna pay for drinks on board. That's one way to sort of save around the margins. Another great option is if you really like popcorn at the movie theater on board or at the theater on board, you can bring that Parks popcorn bucket, and most of the, bartenders at the movie theater or at the theater that sell popcorn will sell you the cost of a refill instead of selling you the entire cost of the popcorn. So that can be like $2.50 instead of like $12 for the popcorn. So there are like sort of little savings that you can make on board. There's also, I love the Brian always uses the beer card. There's this like beer card that you can buy. I forget what the amount is, but you're buying like the larger beer stein and you're paying for the smaller size beer every time you get a refill. Another one is the Cove Cafe coffee card. If you are a coffee drinker, we live in the Seattle area. So, of course, Brian and I are a bit of coffee snobs. We do not drink Joffrey's drip coffee. It is not our style. We like specialty coffees. And so if you get the card, it's a loyalty card. For every 5 coffees you buy, you get the sixth one free. So things like that. There's small ways where you can sort of save here and there. The other thing that Brian mentioned is the cost is what the cost is, right? You've paid it all up front. You've got prepay your gratuities. You may want to leave some extra gratuities. But other than your purchases on board, like Brian mentioned, going to the gift shop, you could walk out with not spending a dime. And I love it because you don't end every ride in a gift shop. So you don't have those impulse purchases, whenever you walk out of a ride at the parks, you're walking through, you walk out of Toy Story Midway Mania and you're in a Toy Story gift shop and you've got to contain your toddler from grabbing Woody and Buzz off the shelf or the little alien green guys. And you could walk by the shop and never go in the shop on a Disney cruise. Now I got to tell you though, there is a Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique on board, and that is a hefty price tag.
But there's even a way to save money there, which is they offer dresses. They sell the dresses in the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. If you bring your own, you don't have to pay for it. So
Right.
you can get the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique experience without buying the dress. I was also going to flag if you're interested in spa treatments, don't pre-book them because you're paying full price. You won't have the same selection, but if you're the kind of person who's like, I'm okay staying on board in the morning on a port day, they discount the spa treatments on port days. You can book them when you get on board because a lot of people are going to be getting off the ship for excursions. And so you can save money that way. The one thing I will say, so Sam's mentioned it a few times, they have been doing they've been doing more special promotions than we have traditionally seen Disney ever do. But you gotta read what the promotion is because the one Sam highlighted about third and fourth guests sail half price. Third and fourth guests are only $800 on a $2,500 fare per person for guests 1 and 2. And so you're saving money. Don't get me wrong, but don't think of it as I'm getting 50% off my room. Or the other one that they ran for a long time that I never fully understood was 50% off your deposit. And you're thinking, oh, that's 50. No, you still have to pay the full price. You're just paying less right now.
Up front.
So,
Yeah.
so you're not getting a deal there.
It's like purchasing on layaway. I've got to eventually pay for it. I just don't have to pay for it today.
When you book a cruise, you don't pay for it all up front. You're not plopping down, $4, $5, $6,000 up front. You pay a deposit, and then there is a pay in full date that will come about. I think it's standardized at about 90 days out from the sailing. It depends on the length of your sailing and what kind of room category you're booked in. If you do decide to sail in concierge, sometimes those those payments are due earlier. But when you book, you can pay over time. If you're booking 18
Mhm.
months out, you can pay for this over time. You don't have to pay for it all at once. The one
Yeah.
caveat I'll give is if you're out there listening to this and thinking, oh, I like to sail suite class and concierge, just know when you book a concierge room, that room is non-refundable from the moment you book it. You can transfer your deposit to another sailing if you're still within the cancellation windows, but you're forever going to have a Disney cruise booked with that money invested in the cruise.
You can also book what's called a guaranteed stateroom, and there are a couple different options. But this is a way where you let Disney Cruise Line choose your stateroom for you, and you say you just give a sort of you book a category, and it's called a guaranteed. It's either VGT or GTY, depending. There's a couple different one options out there. Those typically are, I got to pay it all right now. They're more sort of last minute type deals, and they are heavily discounted. But again, you could end up anywhere on the ship. So if you're particular about, I want to be in the front of the ship, I want to be on deck nine, I want to be on whatever, that's not for you. But if it's a way to get you on the ship, to your point, Danielle, if I just want to be on the ship and I don't really care about where my room is, then that's a great option for getting sort of the most bang for your buck.
So I go to Disney World a lot, and my bounce back offer strategy is like I'm steadfast. I did miss one time and I was like, oh no, I missed my bounce back offer. So question for you, can you go on a Disney World vacation, have your bounce back offer and apply that to a Disney cruise and it have the same discounts or no?
No, there are some specific offers recently that they've done that were sort of bounce back to Disney World resorts, but not the other way around. So there is what's called a placeholder discount. Once you're on a Disney cruise, you can book what's called a placeholder discount where you pay I think it's a $250 deposit, and then you can get 10% off your next cruise. But there are some blackout dates and whatnot that apply. So there are some other ways, if you're not a first time cruiser, but a second time or more cruiser, that you can get some discounts. But the bounce back offers, generally speaking, are resorts only, with, of course, some exception for there's just been some recent discounts.
And the way you approach bounce backs is the way we advise most people to approach this placeholder option, because it's $250 down, gets you a 10% off as long as you sail within the next 2 years. But if you don't use it, Disney just refunds the $250 to you. So you're not losing anything. You're basically buying a 10% discount on with some restrictions.
Okay. All right. All we have to do is get on the ship. Again, that's the
Right.
key takeaway, on
Just
the
get on the
ship.
ship.
Get
That's
on the
right.
ship. I love that. Speaking of Disney World, what are your thoughts in terms of adding a Disney cruise before you go to Disney World or after? Or would you recommend just having a Disney cruise experience solo on its own? Any thoughts?
After, always
Always
after,
After, always
after.
after.
always
Tell me
after.
why. Tell me why.
Well, so everything on the Disney cruise is like included, right? Or most of it, most of what's happening is it's included. So if you go from your like relaxing Disney cruise and then you head into the parks after you've embarked, oh my goodness, is sticker shock is real. And you're like, oh, those fries were free. Why are they costing me $10? Why is that soda costing me $6? Right? Oh, my kid doesn't like that. So now I have to buy them a second meal, and your kids have just gotten used to the fact if they don't like their meal, they can get another one, or they could order three meals, right? So it's very hard to do it in that order. I wouldn't say don't do it, because if that's the only time you can fit in your vacation, then do it however way works for you. But I would definitely say parks first, then cruise line. Parks, crazy amount of planning. You're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. You're trying to hit those, lightning lanes and, different reservations and all that kind of stuff. Then board a Disney cruise and just bask in the relaxation. Hit up some trivias if you want, sit at the pool deck if you want, watch a movie while sitting at the pool, while your kid is in the pool with kid soup. That's what we like to call the pool deck, because there's lots of kids in these very small pools. But yeah, it's way better to do parks first and then a cruise if you're going to do both. I actually think it's a great way to do it for a first timer, because first timers do tend to book shorter cruises thinking, I'm not sure I'm going to like this. I'm not sure if I'm going to be seasick, that sort of a thing. I think a lot of people decide to do that sea and land or land and sea option. And so, yeah, I think that's a great
It,
recommendation.
the other reason to do it before is when Sam said up front, like friends don't let friends fly in the day of their cruise. Like you're going to want to come in early anyway. So it's better to like get there early, have those few days at the parks, experience the parks. You're there for your cruise. If you have any flight delays, right? Staying at a park, if you have a flight delay, well, maybe you lose a night of your hotel. If you miss the cruise ship, you've missed the cruise ship, and your options are pretty limited on your ability to catch up with it and get back on board, and you may not be able to do that at all. So you always want to come in early, so you might as well use the front end of the trip for that. I will also say, in terms of like saving money, if you're taking like if you're only coming down for a cruise, like say out of Port Canaveral, one of the best experiences you can have is to stay at the MCO at the Hyatt, because they actually have a luggage transfer service and Disney Cruise Line transportation. They will pick your bags up from your hotel room, load them onto a truck. You're on a bus out to the port, and you will see your luggage outside your stateroom when you get on board. Disney World also, frankly, by the way, if you're staying there pre-cruise, they have a lot of little added magical touches. They will transfer your luggage for you to the ship, so you don't have to drag it onto the bus with you. They're down doing check-in at some of the resorts right there at the resort. So when you show up to the port, you're already checked in for the sailing. So doing that first part as the park stay or a hotel stay, sometimes you get just a little extra magic from Disney.
Wow. Well, I'm feeling the magic right now and I'm ready to book. So I'm definitely going to pass this episode on to my family so they could listen to it. Thank you so much, Brian and Sam. I appreciate your time and all the tips that you shared. Let my listeners know about your podcast and how they can connect with you.
Sure. So we have a twice weekly show. Most weeks it's twice a week. Sometimes it's a little bit more, but a twice weekly podcast that is primarily devoted to Disney Cruise Line. We really cover three topics on the show. Disney Cruise Line itself, and we bring sort of guest experiences, news. One show a week is live, so you can watch us on YouTube and ask questions, and we'll ask some of our guests. And one show is generally recorded. We also cover comparisons with other cruise lines. So we've experienced other cruise lines ourselves. We have guests on who are big Disney cruisers, and then come on and we compare the experience to get at some of these issues of, is the value still really there for the cruise line or not? And then we also love to stretch and cover Adventures by Disney, which is their sort of more luxury end, land-based and river cruising product that they offer. And so we cover those twice a week. Easiest way to find us is to head to DCLDuo.com. That's DCL for Disney Cruise Line, duo.com. And it links off to all of our social media where we are DCL Duo on those. You can find our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, and on YouTube, DCL Duo Podcast. So yeah, that's all the ways to connect with us.